North Shore Unitarian Church is a community that is grounded in love, guided by love, grounded in reason. We're grounded in reason, and we're guided by love, committed to spiritual growth and striving for justice. We warmly welcome everyone here today. My name is Lucas Hergert. I'm the minister here. I use he, him pronouns, and it is great to be with you today. Our community strives to celebrate every person who comes into our sanctuary. Whether you ran in here on little feet, or walked in briskly, or tuned in, or ambled in, or rolled in, you are welcome. Whatever your complexion, or orientation, or gender expression, or political beliefs, you are welcome here. Unitarian Universalism is committed to the idea that every person has inherent worth and dignity, and we seek to share that vision with each other and with the world. Now, in case it is helpful for you, we do have a loop hearing system, and you are also invited to take note of the announcements in your order of service and plan to join us for any community events that may be of interest. To minimize disruptions, we ask that you set your electronic devices to worship mode. Navigating the ongoing realities of the coronavirus pandemic is a complicated matter. We strive to make our worship as welcoming as possible, including for people who are medically vulnerable. We ask that all people who attend services wear a mask and be fully vaccinated, except when that is not medically possible for you. Now, for those who are here for the first or second time, I'd like to extend a special welcome. If you are comfortable, would you mind raising your hand so that we could welcome you? We're glad that you're here and hope that everyone joins us for after the service for coffee and conversation. Also, if you are joining us online, welcome. You can learn more about us by visiting nsuc.org and signing up for our newsletter. May our time together be a time of joy.
Good morning, everyone. I've never said it before, so I should say I'm Stephen Blackwelder. I'm the music director here, and I'm a he, him pronoun person myself. As you can tell, we're doing music from the Jewish tradition of the great High Holy Days, which have just finished this week. The Kol Nidre will be played in two sections, and we're now going to sing an introit to you that happens, I believe, in the last day of the service. The text is, which will be hummed by the choir and by our cantor, "O keep open for us the gates of mercy. At the time of the closing of the gate, now that the day is waning, the day is passing, the sun is setting, O let us enter your gates at last."
Good morning and welcome. My name is Ann Clough. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the student minister here at NSUC. I will invite us into worship this morning with these words by Leah Ungeri. This is the season of repair, a time to reflect on how we might endure when life tears at us. We are held by the great book of life in which it is written that we will inevitably face deprivation and discomfort, longing and forgiveness. Each among us must contemplate our own place in it all. As those of us in relationship with Judaism mark the High Holy Days, all of our hearts fill with hope and fear, turning and settling, mystery and agency, accountability and acceptance. So let us gather today in somber celebration of our shared humanity and our personal power. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to join in the chalice lighting words found in your order of service. This flame affirms the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Council of the Three Fires, comprised of the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations, as well as the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sauk, Fox, Kickapoo, and Illinois nations. We pay our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and we offer them our gratitude and respect, our repentance and hope in solidarity with them.
I invite you, if you're able, to stand and we will hum hymn number 1008. When our hearts are in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When we trust wisdom in each of us, every color and every creed and kind, when we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place.
My name is, excuse me. My name is Jonathan Sausinger, and I am the Congregational Life and Education Coordinator here at North Shore Unitarian Church, and I use he, him pronouns. It is wonderful to be with you today. As we think about the meaning of Yom Kippur this past week, I have a story to share with you if you are not familiar with the holiday. And this story is called, What If Nobody Forgave? In a land far away, a wise old man who knew a great deal about people because of his travels arrived at a strange village. In this town, all the people were carrying what appeared to be bundles of sticks on their backs. They couldn't look around very well, let alone walk around, because of the heavy burdens that they carried. Puzzled, the wise old man finally stopped a young fellow. "My good man, I am a stranger to your land, and I am fascinated by those large bundles on your back. What is their purpose?" "Oh, these," answered the young fellow in a matter-of-fact way, "these are our grudges." "My," said the wise old man, "that's a lot of grudges to carry around at your age." And the young man said, "Oh, they're not all mine. Some came from my grandfather, others came from my great-grandfather. See that man over there? He called my great-grandfather a rapscallion, and my great-grandfather beat him up." And you see, we must carry the grudges that are passed down to us. Now the wise man looked at the young fellow puzzled. "That mustn't be any way to live. Why don't you get rid of your grudges?" And the young man said, "We've forgotten how. You see, at first we were very proud of our grudges. Tourists came. But a few years ago, we, the people of Grudgeville, forgot how to get rid of our grudges." And the wise old man said, "If you really want to get rid of those grudges, I think I have 5 magic words that will do the trick." "You do?" asked the fellow hopefully. "That would be a miracle. I will go at once to tell the mayor, and we will gather the people in the town square and at last get rid of our grudges." Now the mayor, who was excited to hear this news, lost no time notifying the folks of Grudgeville. And at last all the people assembled in the town square. When they had quieted down, the mayor said, "Good people of Grudgeville, a wonderful thing has happened. A very wise stranger has come into our town, and he says that he can tell us the 5 magic words to help us finally put down our grudges. How many of you would like to be able to put down your grudges today? Listen to this wise man and do as he tells you." And the wise man said, "My friends, these are simple words, yet I must admit some people find them hard to say. I think you may have the courage to speak them today. The trick is that you must say them to each other and truly mean them. The first 2 words are, 'I'm sorry.' The other 3 are, 'I forgive you.' Can you say that? Now say these words to each other." There was a long pause and some grumbling from the people of Grudgeville. First one person and then another. They did try the words, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I forgive you." Soon they were saying them all to each other, quietly at first, then louder. And would you believe it? Just like the wise man predicted, those grudges finally disappeared. What joy there was in the town of Grudgeville. People were heard saying, "Look how those trees have grown. Is that you, Jim? It's so good to see your face." There was dancing in the streets that day, and it wasn't long before the mayor changed the name of the town to Joytown. Now, this past week, for those of you who may not have been raised and a tradition that exposed you to Yom Kippur. This is one of the holiest days in Judaism. It is the Day of Atonement. It is a day to take stock of ourselves, where we've fallen short in our lives, in our relationship to the holy, including our relationship to each other. So I invite you to think about the story of the people of Grudgeville and how they put down their grudges, and to take stock of where you are in your life this week. Thank you.
My spiritual companions, my fellow residents of Grudgeville, I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation today as we touch that still sacred center within us and find the capacity to let go of the things that we have been carrying that we no longer need to carry. O Spirit of life and love, we arrive at this time of Yom Kippur, celebrated by our Jewish siblings, that honors and recognizes the ways that we have sometimes fallen short, that we have sometimes carried resentments and grudges, that we have things that are in our hearts that we need to recognize and find a compassionate way to release. We are turning this week towards fall, towards autumn, and the leaves are beginning to change. And we recognize that, like those trees, there would be something very wrong with this season if they could never drop their leaves. And so we seek ways that we can forgive, that we can release our resentments, that like those trees, we can drop them to the ground. Let us ponder the things in our hearts this morning that are weighing on us. Let us think about not only the resentments that we have towards others, but also the ways that we have fallen short in relationship, the things that we have yet to confess, the things that we have failed to do in our relationships in order to maintain healthy and right relationships with one another. By recognizing those things and by seeking forgiveness with one another, we are able to walk forward from this place with more lightness and compassion and hope, more space for new buds to arrive when it is time for spring, and we are able to come into a fuller and richer relationship with one another. And so let us take just a moment in silence. Let us think about the grudges, the weight, the resentment, the difficulties that we are holding in our hearts this morning, and then also ponder what it might mean to let those go. From you I receive, to you I give the hope that we can move forward in right relationship and with an open heart. Amen, and may it be so. A little bit of, are you doing this? Am I doing this? We're all doing this. The responsive reading, it has been passed out to you at the beginning of the service. Hopefully, if you don't have one, just join with your neighbor. I'll read the plain text, and I invite you to read the italics. It may be the hardest thing we will ever do. The one who offended may not deserve forgiveness. And we are not obliged to offer it. Why then should we forgive? Because we all miss the mark. Because we can deepen our souls if we forgive. Because restoring even one relationship heals many hearts. Because drawing closer to one another builds our communities. Because the alternative is endless bitterness. Because the world we seek to create is a world filled with forgiveness. Because we do not remain caught up in our self-righteousness and pain. It may be the hardest thing we will ever do. Let's take the first step.
The translation of the wonderful song you're about to hear. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our prayer. We have sinned before thee. Have compassion upon us and upon our children. Help us bring an end to pestilence, war, and famine. Cause all hate and oppression to vanish from the earth. Inscribe us for blessing in the book of life. Let the new year be a good year for each of us.
I went on a one-day spiritual retreat when I was pregnant with my first child. I had been in the midst of preparing our home for the new baby and, of course, anxiously wondering what kind of parent I would become, and I felt the need to take a break, hence the retreat. The retreat director instructed us to write about things that were weighing on our minds, things that we were worried or concerned about. However, at the end of the session, what I had created was an inventory of all the things I wished my parents had done differently when they were raising me, every perceived slight that I had been holding onto for years. And I was fervently scribbling my intention to never do any of those things myself. I note those knowing looks, fellow parents. Standing up from my chair, which was definitely not designed for someone 7 months pregnant, I looked over what I had written and I realized that I was really angry at my parents. None of these items was particularly egregious, but when you spend 45 minutes reliving the most challenging episodes of childhood, with pregnancy hormones coursing through your veins, you can get pretty worked up. I took advantage of our break to practice some yoga. I somehow managed to get myself into a child's pose, my knees, forehead, and belly all resting on the ground. And in that space, the question occurred to me: what if I just let this stuff go? I took a deep breath and the muscles in my back relaxed, like pop, 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 all the way up my spine. And as I exhaled, my whole body just seemed to melt into the floor. And I realized I had no idea how to make such a substantial emotional shift. But my body was telling me that it was ready for that release. Could I just choose to forgive? That was the question that I asked my spiritual director the following week when I told her about my retreat experience. And she asked me, why did I want to forgive? It came to a simple answer. I want to create a family where we say we're sorry and we forgive each other. She replied, then stop telling your pain story. In his book, Forgiving and Reconciling, forgiveness researcher Everett Worthington outlines steps to forgiveness. And the first one is just that: stop ruminating. He suggests looking at the painful incident one final time, telling or writing the entire story from start to finish, so that the story has a beginning and an ending. This includes looking at it from all points of view, including the perspective of the person you feel wronged you. My mentor had given me a similar exercise, instructing me to explore each of the events I had written about on retreat, but imagining that I was the parent. Worthington reveals there are two main types of forgiveness: decision forgiveness and emotional forgiveness. Deciding intellectually to forgive is a good start, but it's hard to sustain. We tend to slide back into our familiar narratives about how we have been wronged. We may have taken on being wronged as a part of our identity. Lasting forgiveness comes when we substitute our hard, crunchy emotions of pain and anger with softer emotions, such as empathy, humility, and gratitude. Considering the challenges of parenting me was the first step in softening my heart, in humbling myself, in releasing my resentments. Ultimately, we all mess up. We all cause harm to those around us. We all have the occasion to make amends and to ask for forgiveness. When we reflect on our actions daily, occasionally, when the holiday calls for it, we find that we all fall well short of anything that we could call perfection. We're human. And we also all know that feeling of relief and gratitude that we experience when we are granted forgiveness. This dance among humility and gratitude and empathy is the practice that leads to freedom from reliving our pain over and over again. We can cultivate these emotions when we are struggling to forgive. And lately, I have really struggled. I find myself being angry quite often. Angry at the choices that have been made or not made that have led to our climate crisis. Angry at the ongoing racial injustice, gender injustice, voter suppression, the handling of a pandemic in which 1 in 500 Americans has died. I told a friend recently, I am collecting resentments like charms on a bracelet. And it's a bracelet I have a hard time taking off. Am I alone in this? I didn't think so. There are many reasons that we are hesitant to forgive. They, as opposed to us, they are not worthy of forgiveness. If we forgive, we will not be motivated for justice. Forgiveness is weak, it's giving up. We are maybe really enjoying our revenge fantasies. Holding on to our resentment feels like power and control. Or maybe we equate forgiveness with reconciliation, which we are absolutely not ready to do. Better to just cancel everyone responsible. And so we remain trapped. We remain weighed down and anchored to the past, these hot emotions flooding our systems. Striving for justice means believing in the ability of ourselves and our fellow humans to change. It is a significant leap of faith, but in the words of womanist bell hooks, for me, forgiveness and compassion are always linked. How do we hold people accountable for wrongdoing and yet at the same time remain in touch with their humanity enough to believe in their capacity to be transformed? So ends her quote. Every action that I take is an attempt to meet my emotional needs. We all do this. That is how we are wired. We all have the need to feel psychologically and physically safe, to feel connected and appreciated, and to protect our loved ones. Where we come into conflict is in the strategies that we choose when trying to meet those emotional needs. When I am rested, fed, relaxed, and joyful, I might consider the impact that my actions will have on others before I take them. 19 months into the pandemic, it's harder to access that grace. But you know what? Holding on to anger and pain makes it even harder. I want to be free of that pain so that I can have access to hope and to the energy and focus that I need to do my part to bring about the changes I hope to see. Humility, gratitude, and empathy. In order to feel that we truly belong in a family, in a community, or a society, we need to know that when we make mistakes, we can apologize, make amends, and be forgiven. The health and strength of a covenant is in how we respond when it is broken. Can we own our part in the conflict? Can we allow each other to change and grow? As Martin Luther King Jr. said, we must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. I am grateful this week for the example of our Jewish siblings, setting aside time to reflect on our behavior, taking direct action to repair and restore our relationships, and naming these practices as holy and sacred. These are valuable lessons that we can learn from this tradition. Most of the time, forgiveness does not happen in the moment that we decide to forgive, even on the holiest of holy days. It is a process that happens in its own time. We can take the steps to lean into forgiveness, practicing humility, gratitude, and empathy, and then our hearts change when they are ready. And I acknowledge that some harms are bigger than others, and we may need a more involved process. And I encourage you to share your story with a friend who has earned it. Talk to a counselor, seek pastoral care. Like most human struggles, working toward the freedom of forgiveness is easier to do in the safety of relationship. My daughter is now the same age that I was when I went on that retreat. It would be impossible to count the number of times that I have had to ask for forgiveness from my children, and my empathy for my parents has grown exponentially. 24 years in, and I'm still making it up as I go along. And we are still working on being a family where we say we're sorry and we forgive each other. Let this be a community of humility, gratitude, empathy, and forgiveness. Let us encourage one another to growth and healthy change. And let us hold one another tenderly in empathy and love. Amen.
This is a familiar tune. I'll give you a few words of translation. It's from Lamentations. Turn us back, O Lord, to you, and we will turn. We will renew. renew our days as before.
The Unitarian Universalist flaming chalice has been a beacon of hope, of healing, and of compassionate service in a weary and hurting world. We are now the keepers of its flame, and its light is fueled by each person's gifts of time, talent, energy, and financial commitment. Note that with our Share the Plate program, half of all non-pledged donations we receive in the plates will be donated to social or environmental justice causes. This month, your donations will go to the Youth Pride Services, and this is a program of the youth services in Glenview and Northbrook. You might note that in the order of service, there's a misprint, and it has the previous month's donation, which went to mano a mano. But this month is going to go to the Youth Pride Services. And so I invite you to give generously so that we can contribute to them. And you can also learn more about those services by looking in the newsletter that we have that goes out each week. Please note that you can give in two ways, either by putting money in the blue box by the sanctuary door as you leave, or by scanning the code in your order of service during the offertory. And if you are joining us online, I'd like to thank you for being with us today. You can give by going to our website to donate. And we'll also have a coffee hour and an online opportunity to share joys and sorrows on Zoom. You can find the link to that in your newsletter. We'll be turning off the live stream shortly, and we thank you for being with us today. Let us now celebrate our community in gratitude and in generosity.